Alrighty, this is from Samo4. Samo4 writes, Wi-Fi sometimes cuts out, won't allow new connections, but established connections work fine. The Wi-Fi in my house randomly cuts out ever so often, usually multiple times per day. What's weird about this, however, is that only new connections aren't allowed. Okay, for example, I'm online gaming with friends. Usually when it cuts out, I can still talk to them perfectly fine over Discord on my PC. However, whatever game I'm playing with them will often lag out, and I won't be able to open a web browser and visit any websites. Opening command prompt and attempting to ping a website also doesn't work. Even pinging Discord's website won't work, even when I'm actively using the software to talk to someone and it's working perfectly fine. It also won't let me send messages in a text channel. When this happens, my PC still shows an active network connection. It's obviously still connected to the internet because that's the only possible way I could still be talking to someone through Discord. But why might it, I'm assuming it's my router, randomly be limiting other new connections? Some other information, I do have a Wi-Fi repeater that my PC is connected to. However, when it happens simultaneously for every device on the entire network, not just devices to the extender. The router, Nighthawk, AX4 and repeater are both made by Netgear. Any ideas? Thank y'all. Yes, I have plenty of ideas. So typically whenever you run into situations like this where basically connections that have created a tunnel to whatever their destination is, those connections are fine. However, all new connections are having problems. That usually means you may have a DNS issue. So you may have, your DNS may have been fine whenever you connected on Discord, but Discord, what it's actually doing is it's actually creating a tunnel between you and the actual location. So there's nothing that can really happen that will change that because it already knows where that location is. It already knows the next hop is what we call it. So it already knows how to get there. So that tunnel is already established. However, for new connections, it may be having a problem there. Now, because it still shows you connected to the internet, makes me think that it's not NAT, okay? So NAT is basically your private IP address is being translated into one public IP address because we all usually only get one public IP address. So I don't think NAT is the play here, but I do think your router has something to do with it. So it looks like it may be more so along the lines of DNS. I typically run into this problem with people who have DNS set to their internet service provider, okay? And when that happens, you kind of run into these things. I would change my DNS to Google and see if that fixes anything. So now, let's look at the router. If the router is the internet service provider's router, you may not be able to change the DNS settings on that particular router. So what you would do is you will force it to a different DNS. So one of your computers, particularly the one that's on the repeater or something along those lines, change the DNS by going to System or Windows Control Panel, Network and Internet, and then going to the network and then clicking on your wireless network, I guess in this case, and then changing the DNS to be 8.8.8.8, which makes it Google, and 8.8.4.4 for the secondary, which is also Google, and hit OK, hit apply. Now, you may have to reboot your computer for it to come back and have it come back up. It's easier to do that than telling people how to flush DNS. So on this case here, you will have to reboot your computer when it comes back up. And now see, whenever you run into those issues, does this computer also go down? If this computer does not go down, you have a DNS issue, and that's going to be with your router and your internet service provider if it's an internet service provider router. Now, if it's your own router, just change the DNS to 8.8.8 and 8.8.4.4 and see if it actually fixes your issue. It's your router, so I'm assuming you knew how to set it up. And if, let me think, it's a possibility that it could be a NAT translation, but the only really thing you can do there is reboot your router. Generally NAT is set up by default on customer routers. But I'd say it's probably like 85% DNS on this particular situation and the rest being NAT and whatever. So here, I definitely would recommend for you to go ahead and change the DNS servers to be Google and see if that actually fixes your issue. But that would explain why it's cutting out like that. Once a connection is already established and they're going back and forth, then you can't really, I mean, there's a few things you can do to break it up, but once it does that, it doesn't really need DNS anymore because it knows how to reach its next hop. It's a tunnel that's created between them. So that's the reason why you run into this particular situation. Hopefully that helps. So let's go ahead and put that in here.